Hello, welcome here or welcome back. My name is Michaela. I'm a wife, a mom, and a knitter from British Columbia, Canada, and this channel is called Galanthus Knits. Today I want to talk all about spring. So spring is just around the corner. I'm filming this in mid-February. March is soon to come, and with March comes the beginning of spring. So I thought it would be really fun to do something a little bit special for spring this year. Because it is my 1 year anniversary of being on YouTube. I posted my first video at the beginning of March, I think, last year, either end of February, beginning of March. And I love this time of year. This transition between winter and spring is just gorgeous. I really appreciate all that this time of year has to offer. And I thought it would be fun since it's my 1 year anniversary of being on YouTube and that I've built a little community here that I really so appreciate if we did a knit along together. Now, I've never hosted a knit along before, so this will be my first time. And I'm a little bit nervous about how to be a good KAL host, but I think I'm just going to go for it and see how it turns out. So I am calling this the Birds Are Back knit along. So the coming of spring, the birds are back. And I would like this to be a knit along where you or whoever wants to participate in the knit along, you and me, we choose, however many patterns you want to work through, but at least one pattern that is inspired by something to do with spring. Now, that is a very loose definition, but I'm going to give you some pattern examples of what I mean in a few minutes so that you can kind of get your wheels turning if you want to participate or get some ideas or pick up a pattern from this bundle that I'm going to show you. Completely up to you. So the knit along is for specifically spring inspired patterns, and spring inspired is quite of a loose definition. So anything springy that is achieved by lace, color work, cables, or embroidery, those kinds of things, color combinations, something springy. So this is not the knit along for just, straight stockinettes or trying to finish your whips or anything like that. This is going to be for specifically kind of spring inspired dopamine knitting kind of things. So I have some patterns that I want to show you, and feel free to choose any of these for the knit along, or if there's some that you know of that I don't have here, please let me know or cast those on in for the knit along. I would love to have a group chat going for this knit along, and I think the easiest thing for me is to have it be on Instagram, just because that's the social media that I use the most often, that I'm the most active on. So if you would like to participate and be part of the group chat, then please send me a message on Instagram and I will add you to the group chat, okay? And then when you're posting about your knits, please use the hashtag Birds Are Back KAL. Okay, so this will be written on the screen. It'll be written down below as well. So message me on Instagram to be part of the chat, and then use the hashtag Birds Are Back KAL on whatever social media, but I use Instagram the most. The knit along will be running from the 1st of March until the 1st of June. So this is kind of what I consider to be springtime in Northern Hemisphere, 1st of March to 1st of June. I know it's not between the equinox and the solstice, but I think it just lines up a bit better because I think June to me is summer, and also I'm quite busy. I'm going to be quite busy in June this year, so I'd rather have the knit along kind of wrapped up before the busy season starts for me at that point. So 1st of March to 1st of June, join the Birds Are Back knit along if you would like to knit some of these spring patterns or your own spring patterns. I want to see just what spring means to you. I want to see what you see in nature. I want us to slow down and appreciate the colors, the textures, what's springing back to life during this season. I would love us to just be kind of more engaged in that during this season. So if that rings true for you, if that resonates with you, then please join me. I would love to see as many people there as would like to join. So without any more rambling, I would love to share these spring inspired patterns with you all. And I have them in categories. So I'm starting out with socks, and then I'm going to be moving into mittens, and then sweaters, so like pullovers, cardigans, shawls and scarves, home decor, and then kid/baby knits. So there's a large variety of different patterns in this roundup, and there's 45 patterns in total. I don't want to ramble on about any of these patterns specifically because I would like to just get through them quite quickly. But I will link the bundle down below in the description so that you can click on that. It takes you to Ravelry, and it takes you to the entire list of the patterns that I'm talking about, so you can see them completely, fully on your screen to look at your own leisure. So let's begin. I'm looking at my computer, by the way. That's why I'm looking down. So I'm not memorizing all of this, so you're going to have to bear with me. But you'll be able to see all the things. I'm going to put the pictures up on the screen and the descriptions and things, so you can just look at that. Okay, the first pattern I want to talk about, we're starting with socks, is the Wildflowers and Honeycomb Socks by This Handmade Life. So this is a beautiful lace sock inspired by wildflowers and honeycomb, so very appropriate for our theme. The pictures are lovely. It looks like it's a heel flap and gusset, possibly with a garter heel. I'm not totally sure. I'm not really too much of a sock knitter, so I do enjoy knitting a sock here and there, but I'm not very consistent with my sock knitting, so I haven't done that many different constructions. But yes, it's a fingering weight sock, and it is knit on 2.5 millimeter needles, so quite standard, and it comes in 3 different sizes. The next pattern is the Pressed Flower Socks by Amy Christophers, and the Pressed Flowers series has been very popular recently. I've seen a lot of people knitting the Pressed Flowers shawl, and is there a cardigan possibly? I can't remember all the different ones that are in the series, but she's got quite a few, and they're gorgeous. And this is achieved with mosaic knitting. Yeah, so I've never done mosaic knitting before, so this might be something that I'm interested in tackling during this knit along. That might be fun. I actually haven't decided which pattern that I'm going to be doing. All of these look great to me, but I just need to narrow down what I want to do. And I might do a few small ones. I think that would be quite fun. So anyway, yeah, the Pressed Flower Socks by Amy Christophers. The next pattern is the Skylark Socks. So this is inspired by skylark, which are a type of bird, appropriate for the birds of back knit along. By Fox and Folk, and these are gorgeous. I like the color she used for her sample. This yellow is very pretty, and yeah, there's a daintiness to it, but also a sort of featheriness. I can see kind of where she gets her inspiration from skylarks, with that sort of, it looks like a texture on the top of a wing, sort of on the top of the sock, which I quite like. The next sock is the Snowdrop Socks. There's going to be a lot of snowdrop inspired patterns in this roundup because I absolutely love snowdrops. They're my favorite flower. That's what I named my channel after. Galanthus nivalis is the scientific name for snowdrops. So Galanthus knits is the snowdrop knits. And yeah, so I love snowdrops. So Snowdrop Socks by Fox and Folk as well. And they've got a really nice little dainty flowery motif on the top of the sock. Really, really pretty. Very feminine and floral, but not too much. So, you know what I mean? Like it's muted. It's held back a bit, but it's still very beautiful. Okay, the next one is a bit different. And I'm going to have a hard time pronouncing this because it is Finnish. So it's the Lupinit socks, Lupinit by Suvi. I'm really sorry, I cannot pronounce that surname. But yeah, they're written in English and in Finnish. So if you're worried about the Finnish, then no worries at all. So I think these are inspired by lupine or lupin flowers. Lupinate, probably. They do look like lupin flowers, which are more of a summer flower, but I think we can get away with it for spring. The socks, I'm just going to read this little description here. The socks are knitted from cuff to toe with magic loop technique. The lupine pattern for the sock leg is knitted with stranded colorwork and twisted braids. The stem of the flowers are crocheted into the work using the vertical plaid knitting technique before knitting the heel. So that's quite interesting. That's a technique that I have never encountered before in anything that I've ever done. So that might be fun if you're looking for something a bit different. The next sock is the Fiorellini sock by Marie-Eve Wedge. So these are a colorwork sock, but a very achievable colorwork. Like if you've never done colorwork socks before, I think this is completely doable. It's not too complicated. Yeah, standard fingering weight sock, 2.5 millimeter needles. Yeah, it's really pretty, really dainty, and I think you could be quite creative or out there with your color choices for something like this, because it is just a very simple color work that you can play around with the contrasts a bit. I think that one would be fun, I think, to do in like some bold colors. Okay, second to last sock, we have the Daffodils by This Handmade Life. Beautiful, beautiful. I really like the photography that This Handmade Life does. All of her projects that I've seen have beautiful sample photos. She is quite good at laying them out, and she uses books a lot in her inspiration for the photos. So I think that's really pretty. Again, fingering weight, 2.5 millimeters, standard sock. This is knitted with a lace motif, and it feels that like that transition between winter and spring to me, which I really appreciate, which daffodils are like that. They're kind of they're a somewhat beginning of spring flower, I think. Okay. And last sock that I want to show you today is again from the Finnish pattern designer Suvi. This is her name, and it's Lumi Kellot sock. So these are snowdrop socks as well, and beautiful. This is knitted with the same technique as the lupine one, or lupin socks. So there's stranded color work, there is twisted braids, and the stem of the flowers are crocheted into the work by using the vertical plaid knitting technique before knitting the heel. So same sort of construction as the lupin one, but a different flower and a different shape as well. So I think that's really pretty. Moving into mittens, I have 5 mitt patterns to show you today. And the first one is the Gardener's Prayer Hand Warmers by Yamagara Knits. So these are a fingerless mitten, and they've got a sort of flower and what would you call that? Dandelion puff maybe, or just a different type of flower possibly. So they have a couple different flowers on the mitten themselves using color work. I like what she has written here on Ravelry on the page description. The inspiration for the Gardener's Prayer came from my plants. They are the first thing that I take care of every morning after waking up. Praying for people and things you care for brings deeper relationship with them and a sense of peace. I hope you find joy and peace in making and wearing the Gardener's Prayer. I think I would get pretty good wear out of something like this. I have been considering knitting myself a sort of garden-only fingerless mitts, because I have a couple of pairs of fingerless mitts that I've made, but I don't want to get them dirty with plant care. But I think something like this, that if I made it in darker colors and with the intention of having them be a bit dirty, then I would be okay with it. And I think having something pretty like this color work on it would also just bring me a lot of joy in wearing it while working in my garden. So that one's really nice. Okay, we have another fingerless mitten pattern that I'm going to move on to, and this is the Hello Spring Mitts by Monica Anna. And yeah, color work, fingerless mittens, fingering weight, really pretty flower motif. I like the green sample that she has. She has a red sample as well that's on the page on Ravelry, and that's pretty as well, but I really like the green one. I think that really is very spring to me. And then we have 3 pairs of non-fingerless mitts, so regular mittens. And the first one is the Snowdrop Mittens by Uni Rihella and Lena Rihella. I don't think I'm saying that correctly, but forgive me. Finnish names are not my forte. So a colorwork mitten with the snowdrop motif on it, and I think this is really pretty. Next, we have one that has become very well known and a little bit famous among the knitting podcast world, and that was because of Celine by Woozy by Celine. But these are the Songbird Mittens by Erica Husser. I'm not sure. And yes, stunning, iconic. I have seen so many people knit these after Celine knit hers. I think, did she do hers in what color did she make hers in? I want to say it was purple, but that might have been a different pair of colorwork mittens that she worked on. I can't remember what color she did hers in. But this one has a lot of projects, 1,532 projects on Ravelry at the time of filming. So a lot of people have knitted these mittens, and I think they are stunning. I have heard a few people say that it's maybe not the right pattern for somebody who's beginning in colorwork because every single row is very different. So it's not a very memorizable pattern, whereas a lot of other colorwork has more symmetry, where this one doesn't. At least it doesn't on the front of the mitt. On the back of the mitt, it does look like there's a lot of symmetry. But I think it's a very minds-on pattern. It's a very you have to look at your charts constantly type pattern. So if you're a beginner colorwork knitter, maybe these aren't the ones for you to tackle just yet, but I don't think it will be very long before you can do these if you would like to. And the last mitten is going along the theme of the spring animals on knits. So that is the Sheepish Mittens by Judy Kavanaugh. And yes, lovely. Lambing season. Spring means so many things. This is when we have ducklings swimming in ponds and lambs and baby birds and nests and all sorts of things going on. So there's so much to pay attention to. But yeah, these sheepish mittens are beautiful. They remind me of my time living in Wales because there were sheep roaming the streets in the town I lived in. So yeah, I don't see so many sheep anymore now that I live in Western Canada again. But yeah, this is definitely a little bit nostalgic for me, this type of knit. Okay, moving into pullovers now. I'm going to start off with one that I think is kind of on the edge of being a spring knit, but I'm including it anyways because I do love this pattern, and I think the color choice will really impact whether or not it feels very spring-like. And that is the Arboreal Sweater by Jennifer Steingass. I have knitted this sweater before. This was my first color work project ever, and I love this sweater so much. And it is very autumnal, but I think that if you did this in spring colors, then you're golden. So maybe a green with white leaves or a darker green background with a lighter green leaf motif would be really pretty. Yeah, I mean, you can do whatever you want with this, but leaves are just as much spring as they are fall. You just have to choose the right colors. Next sweater pattern, is Little Twigs by Melody Hoffman. One of my favorite things about spring, actually, or my favorite times in spring, is when the undercover has bloomed or sprouted. So there's lots of leaves, there's lots of new growth, there's lots of things happening on the ground, but the tops of the trees haven't caught up yet. So it's still just twigs, sticks, like you look up and your trees are bare. But I love that because it's good bird watching time. Once the leaves come in, your chances of spotting that Bewick's wren is a lot more difficult. So yeah, this kind of twig twig time in spring. I really appreciate. And I like her first picture here on Ravelry is her wearing it just like from the back, and you can see all of that beautiful greenery on the bottom of the forest floor in the picture. And so that's kind of what I'm talking about, is when it's all green on the bottom, but it's still very bare on the top. That's one of my favorite moments in spring. Okay, next is a colorwork yoke jumper, and this is the Mayflower jumper by Sasky & Co. So she's Sasky & Co. on Ravelry, but she's also the petite knitter, or her name is Wei Chan. She lives up in Iqaluit in the north of Canada, and she has the most gorgeous colorwork sweaters. I'm knitting one of her sweaters at the moment, her alpine paca sweater. I'm nearly finished that, by the way. But anyway, this is a really pretty floral colorwork. You get a lot of, for colorwork yokes like this, you get a lot of winter themed ones and some autumnal themed ones, but I don't see that many spring or florally, flowery designs like this. Not as much as you get like snowflakes and things like that. So I think this is really special. And she obviously has taken her inspiration photos against snowy backdrops, but yeah, I can see that wearing this would bring in the spring a little bit, for even those lingering cold days, you know. I have another pattern from the same designer, Sasky & Co. / the Petite Knitter, and this is the Pixie pullover. So this is, it's just a simple sweater, but it's got some color work right on the very top with some birds flying. And then also in the cuffs and in the ribs, there's also some like kind of block coloring. Just a nice little detail to kind of add to it. But I think this is a really pretty pattern. Okay, Pixie is inspired by Arctic ravens that roam the skies and dance in the winds of the tundra. So that's really romantic and sweet, and I like this, the way that the birds are flying in this motif. I think that's a really, really nice detail. Okay, next I want to talk about the Bifurca pullover by Teddy Litzak, and this is a really beautiful pattern. Teddy Litzak has just some very unique pattern designs that she's done. I've been following her for years, but I've never actually knitted anything of hers, but her designs are quite unique. I do have to say that it's not, she has a different eye than a lot of patterns that I've seen. So there's lots to look at. So if you've never come across any of her designs, I do recommend going to look at her page, because there's just so much variety. But they all fit at the same time. They all fit really nicely together in like her own personal style. So I think that's quite nice. Okay, the next 3 patterns are basically the same pattern, but different versions of one another. So we've got the Magnolia Bloom cardigan, and the Magnolia Chunky cardigan. And these are all patterns by Camilla Vad. Yeah, it's got like a really more chunky lace and bauble motif on the top yoke. And yeah, all of them kind of have that, and they're knitted with different gauges and slightly different constructions. The Magnolia Chunky cardigan has the magnolia motif on the bottom of the cardigan, whereas the Magnolia Bloom cardigan has the motif in the yoke. So they're kind of all sisters of one another, but have very varying looks. Yeah, I think if I were to do one of these patterns, I would probably go for maybe the Magnolia Chunky cardigan, just because doing lace, like a motif at the bottom of a cardigan or the bottom of a garment, is not really something that I have done before. I've done a lot of yokes, but not a lot of bottoms, so I think that's quite different. So those are 3 patterns in the sweater moving into cardigan category. So now we are in the cardigan category, and the next pattern that I want to talk to you about is the Silver Leaf cardigan by Alongavec Anna. I have never knitted any of her patterns before, but I've heard such wonderful things about her work. So I think this is probably a safe bet that it's a good pattern. But it has some lace detailing on the sides of the sleeves, and I think, again, this isn't very obviously spring in your face, but I think it is still, I think it can still work. I think it's delicate. It's this kind of thing on like a special Easter dress, or yeah, moving your wardrobe into more colorful summer dresses, but still needing a little bit of warmth. This is the type of cardigan that you would throw on over that, don't you think? I think it would work really well in the spring transition. And imagine this in a nice yellow color, or like a pastel purple or something. The next pattern is the acacia cardigan. Acacia is a type of tree, and this pattern is by Irene Lynn. Again, same with the last pattern that we talked about. This is a sort of delicate, feminine cardigan that can be thrown over a summer dress that needs a bit of warmth for those spring days. And it looks like this has lace and also cables in it. Yep. The acacia cardigan is a top-down seamless cardigan with a round neck and shaped with raglan increases. A combination of cables, twisted stitches, and eyelets. Some short rows are worked to create the higher back. Good, they've got short rows. Anyway, I don't need to read that whole description, but as you can see, it has a lot going on, but it's also subtle. It's not like those big chunky cable work sweaters that you would maybe do in the wintertime or in the autumn, which are gorgeous, but not really what I picture for spring. This is more spring to me, a softer look. Okay, 2 more cardigans to cover. We have the Bluebird cardigan by Rania Hakalito. I really hope I'm saying these with some level of all rightness. I don't know. Color work, yoke, cardigan. Let's see. Is this knitted flat or is it steeked? I'm gonna look. Yes, it is a steeked cardigan. So I've never done steeking before. That's something completely new to me that feels intimidating, but I've heard a lot of knitters say that it's actually not. So maybe that's an encouragement to you if you're also intimidated by steeking. I've heard a lot of people say that it's not that bad. So possibly give it a go. But something like this would be, I think, worth trying the steek over. And also, knitting color work flat is annoying. So knitting it in the round and then steeking would just be nicer, I think. Again, saying as someone who's never steeked. But that's what I think. All right, the sun's coming in. I don't even know when that happened. I'm so focused. 1 more cardigan pattern, and then we're moving on to shawls and scarves. This is the Anemone cardigan by Lena Holm Samso. And I'm guessing that it's inspired by wood anemone, which is a flower that grows in ancient woodlands in Europe in the springtime around April. And yes, this is also a cardigan that has some different, it looks like it's got lots of different types of stitches in it. Some sort of lacy motifs, maybe some cables, some moss stitching. There's so much going on, but it also isn't too heavy in your face. But you've got these sort of 2 vertical leaf line motifs running down the very front here. And then they're kind of encased by those 2 cables. And so I think that to me is the main feature. And then there's some extra stuff that happens along the sleeves and along under the arm here. But it's very pretty. Oh, the back also has those leaves. Yeah. So we've got some things, like a lot going on, but it looks like there's a lot also repeated. So it's not everything is completely different. That's really pretty. Okay, moving on to shawls and then little scarves and handkerchief type things. The first one is the Pressed Flowers shawl by Amy Christophers. And so this is just like the socks at the beginning. Same family of patterns, but this is such a pretty piece. I think, you know me, yellow and white would look really, really nice. There are 2,824 projects on Ravelry, so a lot of people have knitted this. It's something that if you're intimidated by mosaic knitting, this has been a true tried, tested pattern, and you can probably get a lot of help with it. So that's really pretty. The next pattern is Humblebee Shawl by Fibertails. Fibertails is one of my favorite pattern designers. Everything she does is absolutely gorgeous. I've knitted a few of her patterns. She's just brilliant. Humblebee is bumblebee in Danish, and the shawl is inspired by bees. And actually, you know what? She, in her photo, she's standing in Wood Anemone. So these are the flowers from the Wood Anemone cardigan, or Anemone cardigan, that Lena Holmsamso designed. So that's really nice that appeared right there. Okay, this shawl has some little bumblebees on it. I don't really know how that's achieved, I guess. Maybe in a similar way that baubles are achieved, but it's really cute. I almost knitted this pattern a few years ago, but then I ended up not having enough yarn to complete it, so I didn't finish it. But I do actually own this pattern, and I would love to tackle it. Maybe this is my chance. But there are so many patterns in this bundle that I want to work on. Then we have the Nupulan shawl by Sari Nordland. And this one is a beautiful lace and bauble, I think, shawl. And it's got like a little tassel on the end, which is really nice. Is it on every end or just on one? On every end, she's got that tassel. That's quite pretty. And she says in the description that Nupulan is the Finnish word to describe a flower that is just about to bloom. So that is perfect for our theme. This is really, really, really pretty, and I like she has a lot of photos on Ravelry of this piece, and I like the way that she's taken the photos. I think they're really, really pretty. Okay, and then we have the Hedgerows shawl. This is by Fox and Folk, inspired by plants along the hedgerows, I suppose. So it looks like it's just a garter shawl, and then along the bottom you've got sort of a floral motif. So it doesn't look like it would be too difficult for anyone who possibly wants to put something pretty, like a pretty embellishment on something without it being too mentally taxing. I think this would be a good compromise for that. And she's also got the tassels worked in at the ends of her shawl, just like Sari Nordland did. And I think that's really pretty. I've never done something like that. I anticipate that for myself, I would have a hard time making those look quite even, but maybe it's not as hard as I'm thinking it is. I don't know. Okay, and then we have the Clover Bandana by Nia Knitwear. Just a simple little bandana inspired by clovers. Got a very simple eyelet lace motif on it. This looks like it would be quite quick to knit up, but also quite pretty. There's only 3 projects on Ravelry, but I don't think that should hinder you from tackling it because it doesn't look like, I think it would be quite a quick knit. It wouldn't be like a really, really big commitment to work something like this. Okay, and then we've got the leaflet scarf, I guess, or bandana by Faye Kennington, and she's knitted it in a very sort of vibrant spring green color, so I think that really popped out to me when I was looking for patterns for this. She's got a leaf motif achieved with kind of a lace knitting technique along the edges, just 2 of the edges, not along the top, but yeah, it looks quite good. Yeah, not much to say about this. It's very pretty. All right, then we have the Ivy scarf. Another lace one. Very pretty, very delicate, very romantic. It looks like she's got a few different shapes that you can do. I haven't quite looked into this, but there in the sample photos, there's a straight one, and then there's also a triangle one. So I suppose you can choose which type of scarf that you want to make. So that's quite nice. Next, we have the Spring Fling Scarf by Saskia & Co. / the Petite Knitter. And this is just a simple scarf. It kind of looks similar to the Pressed Flowers shawl or scarf, but it's a lot smaller. It's more Sophie scarf sized, but it's got those pressed flowers in it. I'm not sure if she's actually using mosaic knitting or if she's doing some sort of embroidery afterwards or duplicate stitching. Let's see. Oh, it's just stranded color work. Okay, so yeah, pretty, very Sophie Scarf-esque with a little bit of spring embellishment. Our last scarf / shawl / bandana pattern is the Overgrown by Linnea Elizabeth Knits. And again, this is just a really pretty sort of handkerchief style bandana with leaves on the ends. I like the color that she's chosen. She's sort of chosen a brownish beige color, but I think it looks very pretty and vintage the way that she's captured it with the color and then also the photo styles. But that's a really pretty one. Moving on, we have two patterns in the sort of homeware decor category. So the first one is the Cottage Tea Cozy by Joanna Johnson, and this is just funky. I love it. I think this is really fun. Honestly, this is not something that I would really use, possibly when my daughter gets a bit older, just for fun, but not really something that I would use on a daily basis. But it is really pretty, and you can decorate your house in however you want to, I guess, putting different flowers through, I think that's through embroidery, and window placements and doors and anything. Yeah, there's 24 projects on Ravelry, and if you sift through the projects, every single one looks completely different. So that's quite fun. It looks to me like some people have made the roofs, like the tops of the house, or the tops of the teapot in just normal knitting, and some people have felted theirs. Yeah, if you have a flip through of that, it's quite nice to see all the different variations of patterns that you can do. Okay, and our second and last home decor pattern is Rachel's Table Runner, also by Joanna Johnson, and this is pretty. I've never considered knitting a table runner or anything kind of like that for home, but I do see myself doing something like this in the future, especially maybe something for my mom. She has quite a long table that she likes to put out like seasonal decorations on the table when the table's not being used, so I think something like this would be really nice on her table. Okay, and our last category is baby and kid knits. So we have 9 patterns to go through for this section. And I'm going to start off with the Bean Sprout Bloomers by Pernille Larson, who is the pattern designer for Knitting for Olive. So yeah, just a little pair of bloomers for baby. To be honest, I knitted a couple of pairs of bloomers for my daughter. I think 2, at least 1, maybe 2. I think I knitted 2. And I didn't use them. They were hard to style for me. She was born in July, so she wasn't really wearing things like this for when she was really little because it was a bit too woolly. But I have seen a lot of people style their babies and kids in bloomers in a really, really cute way. I couldn't master it. And also I found it a little bit fidgety when going to change diapers. The beginning, the newborn, I wasn't prepared for this, but newborn baby diaper changing is super frequent, and then as they grow older they need diaper changes a lot less, like their body regulates in a different way. So for a little bit of an older baby this might be something really cute, but for a newborn, honestly I wouldn't bother. You need access to their bums all the time. So, but this is really pretty nonetheless, and if this is something that is up your alley or you think that someone would appreciate something like this, then go for it. I think they're gorgeous. They're just not they weren't wearable for my daughter. Okay, next is the Magnolia Little by Camilla Vad. So this is going with the Magnolia theme of what we saw earlier. Just one for a little girl. And it's got the lace magnolia motif along the bottom of the cardigan rather than along the top yoke. But it's really pretty. And yeah, the size range for this is from 6 months to 10 years. So yeah, if you're not a baby or a kid knitter, then that might be a little bit surprising to you. But a lot of patterns will be from like baby till basically almost teenager. And that's really nice. I think that's, yeah, it's good value, I think. The next is the Little Dream sweater by Claudia Quintanilla. And this one is really pretty. It's, yeah, it's kind of got like a porcelain type vibe in the colors that she's chosen for her sample, but I would probably do it in like cream and green instead of cream and blue for a more spring-like feel. The next pattern is the Aelwyn Caplet by Fox and Folk, and this is a really beautiful little, well, she calls it a caplet, so it's not quite a poncho, it's not quite a sweater or a cardigan, but it's, I guess, caplet. I've never heard of a caplet before, but I guess that's a thing. It comes in sizes 2 years to 10 years, so there's a large size range, and it is decorated with embroidery that you put on afterwards, so you could really do that with any, you know, you could embroider anything on it, is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, I think this is a really nice thing for sort of like Easter. Yeah, just a little bit of extra warmth on top of a nice dress, but something really pretty as well to put on. The next is, this one cracks me up, to be honest. Okay, the Snowdrop Pixie Hat by Bergman Wool. And look at it. Yeah, could you imagine? Okay, I'm just picturing like a couple of little tots running around in the woods with these hats on. I think that would just be so funny. Like, could you imagine like going for a run or something and encountering a bunch of little kids with these snowdrop hats on their heads in like in March or something, or in even February? I think this is just really cute. Obviously not very practical for, I don't know, it could be practical, but it's more costumey, I think, than everyday wear. But I think a lot of kids would get a lot of fun out of something like that. Okay, the next one is one that I've had my eye on for a long, long time. And this is the Garden Flowers Jumper by Marina Ayueva. Yeah, I'm not sure. But I have knitted one of her patterns before, and it turned out so beautifully. I loved it. It was my favorite cardigan that I knitted for my daughter when she was very little. So this pattern is like just a jumper, like a regular sweater. But she's blocked out some squares. There's 5 squares along the front of the sweater that are in stockinette stitch, and the rest of the sweater is all in what looks like seed stitch, possibly. But in each of those 5 squares is a different embroidery motif for spring flowers. So in her, let's see, I mean, there's a few different samples with different kind of flower combinations. Okay, yes. So in this sample, she's got snowdrops in 2 of the corners, she's got crocuses in 2 of the other corners, and then she's got daffodils in the middle. So this is very end of February, going into March, spring, and it's really pretty. And it also looks like the sleeves are slightly ballooned, so there's more, yeah, there's different things going on in this sweater that it's just, it makes it stand out, I think, from other ones. And some of the pictures that she put on Ravelry are just absolutely precious. I really encourage you to go and look at the different combinations of flowers that some people have done, and all the pictures that she's posted. They're just, this is a really, really, really nice sweater. But my embroidery skills are not, I'm not very confident with my embroidery skills. Not enough, anyway, to make this feel achievable to me in the way that I would want it to be. Like, I think I would be a little bit perfectionistic about it, and I'm not at a point yet where I feel confident enough to do it in the way that I would enjoy. So, okay, we have 3 more patterns to get through, and the next one is the Flower Baby Mitts by Martha McCohen. And these are just a simple colorwork mittens. They don't look like they have any thumbs, so they're made for very young babies who don't need to use their thumbs yet. but these would be super helpful for young children. I was putting mittens on my daughter all the time last year during the cold season that didn't have thumbs, just for stroller walks and things like that. I would probably recommend, if you were to do this, to maybe attach them via string that can be run through their sweater, and like they used to do in the old days, how to attach mittens to things so you wouldn't lose them. I have done that with all of my daughter's mittens. I've attached a string that can be run through her jackets. And she takes off her mittens all the time, and then her mittens just hang off of her cuffs and she plays and whatever, and they don't really seem to bother her. But it makes sure that those mittens stay with her and they're just not left on the ground somewhere. Second to last pattern is the Spring Blossoms Baby Bonnet 2.0 by Sandra Magalhães. I'm so sorry. I think that's a Portuguese name, and I'm not good with Portuguese. Yeah, so this has spring blossoms on it via lace, achieved by a lace motif. And then on the ends of the I-cord ties, there's little leaves as well. So that's a little extra something to make this more fun, I think. You don't have to do it. Not everyone on Ravelry has done it. I can see that some people did something slightly different, but a lot of people did include the leaves on the ends, and I think that's really pretty. I would include the leaves on the ends if I was knitting this for a baby, because I think that's fun. And I think bonnets are just really practical. They're really good. They're old-fashioned. They're super practical. Okay, last pattern that I want to talk about during this video is the Anemone Sweater Kids by Pernille Larsen. So this is one that I'm sure a lot of you have seen before if you do any kid knits, but this is just a gorgeous, gorgeous color work sweater. Sort of a dream knit, to be honest. Like, knitting up something like this would just be, I think I would be a little bit too precious with it. Like, giving it to my daughter would be a bit scary, but at the same time, you have to let go of those things, you know? Yeah, so she's used 4 or 5 different colors for her petals. It looks like her 2 pinks are maybe slightly different. And then she has the main color and then the color for the stem and leaves. So there's a lot of different colors going on here, but as you can see, you would only be working with 3 at once at any given time because the flowers are quite distant from each other. And you could just do all the flowers in the same color. You could just do 2 different petal colors, completely up to you. I think this is a really, really pretty pattern. And I think that's a really good pattern to end this roundup on. So if you've made it to this point of the video, thank you so much. I would love it if you would join me for the Birds Are Back knit along that I'm starting on March 1st. Also, if you don't watch this video before March 1st or you find out about it after the date, just message me anyway. Join if you want to. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to be too precious about it. I think as many people wants to join, I think that would be amazing. I would love to see all the inspiration that you all bring to the knit along. I would love to see what you're sort of thinking. Also, wouldn't it be fun? Like, we could send pictures of our knits, but also send pictures of like what the world around you is doing during this time. Like, let's just hype each other up about springtime. I think this would just be a really lovely thing to do and be a part of together. So if that appeals to you, then please reach out to me via my Instagram and use the hashtag BirdsAreBack KAL on Instagram. And thank you so much for watching this video, making it to the end, and I hope to see you in the Instagram chat, but if not, that's okay, and I'll see you on my next video. Bye, friends!